Alchemy on the track.
All right, here we go. NBA trade deadline. Everybody's like, Alchemy, what you think? What you think, dog? No, I'm just messing with you. So there was no major moves as far as blockbuster deals, like no Jimmy Butler or Paul George being moved, no Paul Millsap, as though we kind of knew that wasn't happening. But there were some smaller moves that affect contenders in both the Eastern and Western Conference. Let's cover Toronto first. I'm sure now this has been like a week or 10 days. They got Serge Ibaka, as we all know, for Terrence Ross. And I really like this move as far as what they're doing. And this is what all smart teams do, right? You build your team to beat the best team in your conference, right? So they're building their team to compete with Cleveland. It's as simple as that. And Serge Ibaka, honestly, could be Kevin Love kryptonite. Remember the Western Conference Finals a year ago, how well Serge guarded the pick and roll and how effective a defender he is out on the perimeter as a big man. Now you take a look at Kevin Love and, guys he struggles with. What does he struggle with? Length and athleticism. And that's exactly what Serge Ibaka brings to the table. So that could be a troublesome matchup for Cleveland if they see Toronto again in the playoffs. He can spread the floor offensively and then move his feet, and whatever pick and rolls they want to throw, they can't use him as the big because you can use whoever you want, but it's not, the ideal matchup. And I think he may give Kevin Love trouble. Another subtle move they made late in the deadline today was picking up PJ Tucker from the Phoenix Suns. Now I know a lot of you probably don't, not too familiar with PJ's game. I'm out here in the Phoenix area, so I've seen him play for a few years. And what he is he's a broke-ass Draymond Green. And I mean that like to be complimentary. He brings that toughness, that grit, that energy, and some of those intangibles that you just really can't measure on a stat sheet. You're not going to look up his stats and say, oh, okay, he can shoot the corner three ball. He can guard multiple positions. And most importantly, he's going to give Toronto much needed toughness and some grit in the playoffs against LeBron. Again, building your team to compete against the Cavs. A guy you could put on LeBron for 20 or 30 minutes a night and, he's not going to fold. So I really like what Toronto did. Another move was Nerlens Noel to the Dallas Mavericks. Everybody knew he was going to get moved. It was just a matter of where he was going to get dealt and how much they were going to get for it. Philadelphia didn't get much, man. You hear these arguments of, the same goes with the DeMarcus trade. Well, you're going to have to pay him $200 million, and you're hypothetically going to have to pay Noel upwards of $80 million, and that's why they didn't get more than like a first-round pick and Andrew Bogut. We'll talk more about Bogut later. But let's talk about Dallas and what they did. Shout out Mark Cuban, man. I'm a fan of him mainly from Shark Tank. I love that show, man, the entrepreneur show. And I just like Mark. I like Mark Cuban's got coconuts, man. He got big balls. And that's what I respect about him and the way he moves as an owner. So what they've done is, we all know now they've paid Harrison Barnes, and that's debatable whether he was worthy. Honestly, he's performed better than I thought he would. He's given them like 20 and 8, and they're in the hunt for the 8th seed. And they're more than likely going to pay Noel as well as Seth Curry. So there's a young core. Wes Matthews, you could add him in there if you want. They've already committed to him. But a Seth Curry, Nerlens Noel pick and roll is very intriguing. And then, you have Harrison. You can send his ass back to the corner on that weak side. No, I'm kidding. Harrison stepped up, man. Shout out the governor. Is that what they called him? But anyway, so, what he's banking on is because he's going to pay these guys. He's a risk taker and he's going to bank on their potential. And these guys are very 50-50 which way their potential, their trajectory is. They could slide into being role players or they could slide into being almost stars. I'm guessing Cuban's gonna, bank on them being stars and pay those two, Seth Curry and Noel. And then also realizing that Rick Carlisle is probably the most underrated coach in the league, is going to be able to maximize that talent. Anyway, that doesn't really affect Golden State right now. Maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, they will be contenders again. But the big story out of that is Andrew Bogut was sent to Philadelphia and then waived. Now, there's speculation. I'm not a logistics guy. I don't know about contracts and salary dumps and the logistics of that. But the word on the internet is that Andrew Bogut can re-sign with the Warriors. Okay, so I haven't had it clarified. If y'all know by now, maybe by the time this video is out, it'll be a done deal. Who knows? But that's the word, man, because we're not the last team that traded him. Dallas is the last team that traded him, so technically he could re-sign with us. Now, does he want to is another question because, when he left, he kind of burned some bridges a little bit. I don't think he has any problem with the roster. I don't think he has any problem with Steph and the boys. But I think he did feel like the front office and management was a little fake with him. And he took some subtle shots on the way out in the summertime. So does he want to come back to Golden State or does he want to join a rival? Houston's interested as well as Cleveland. So where Andrew Bogut ends up is going to be a huge factor moving forward in the rest of this season. And I can't wait. Can you guys imagine the home crowd if Bogut re-signs and starting at center, number 12, Andrew? Nah, man, I'd be so hyped. I get goosebumps right now just thinking about it. So I hope Bogut comes back. But again, I know nothing. As far as I know, it's possible, and it's going to be up to him. What other trades happened? Ask me, the Rockets swooped in and got Lou Williams. Daryl Morey, he's a sneaky bastard, man, because I heard Washington was in heavy pursuit of him to bolster their bench. And Houston swooped in and traded Corey Brewer to the Lakers. And you say from the Lakers' perspective, what the hell are you doing? Well, it's pretty clear what they're doing. They're tanking. Their draft pick, the only way they retain this draft pick is if it's top 3. Lou Williams is going to fuck around and win him a couple games at the end of the year. He's clearly been the best Laker. And at the same time, it's going to force the young Lakers to kind of step up and see what they have. At the end of games, Lou has been their bailout man, win or lose. Now, Randall, D'Angelo, Clarkson, Nance, who wants the ball, who's going to step up? So I understand what the Lakers are doing from that perspective. And I also understand what Houston's doing from their perspective. What this is it really is an insurance policy on Eric Gordon. I covered this in the All-Star break a little bit. He just came off winning the 3-point competition, right? And I love EG, man. I love him. He's a smooth player. He's got a weird kind of shot put 3, right? The problem with Eric Gordon is his health. He's never played a full season. He's been fine thus far, but I think Houston is kind of taking a little insurance policy out and getting Lou Williams. So I like it big picture for Houston. But you say, hey, Alchemy, how does this affect the Warriors? As far as a Warriors-Rockets matchup in the playoffs, I don't like the move for Houston. Because you take a look at Lou Williams, man, he might be the worst on-ball defender in the NBA. I mean, this man makes Jamal Crawford look like prime Bruce Bowen, man. I'm telling you. 6 foot, 165 pounds soaking wet. Don't get me wrong, he's a microwave. The man gets busy offensively, but on the other end, he's going to give up buckets to you if you attack him. So in a matchup, a potential matchup with Houston, where do you hide him when he's on the floor? He's much too small to hide him on Iguodala or Draymond. That leaves our guards, Steph, Clay, and Livingston. And that's just problematic, where you take a look at Corey Brewer, who, again, he's not a numbers guy. Don't look at his stats. But what he does is he comes in the game and affects the game defensively. He can guard multiple positions, plays the passing lanes as good as anybody has ever done in the league. And, he's just a nuisance. He's a high energy nuisance on the other end of the floor. And so as far as the matchup goes between the Warriors and Rockets, hey, man, more power to you. Y'all got Sweet Lou. We will cook his ass in the playoffs. I'm not really tripping off that. Now, you ask me, what's up with the Warriors? No trades, and he goes to that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Well, I'm down with that. Briante Weber is still on a 10-day contract until Saturday. Now, we can't give him another 10. You can only give 2 10-day contracts. So we've either got to retain him for the rest of the season or we got to open up that roster spot. Now, I already talked about Bogut. If Bogut is willing to come back home, man, come home, Bogey. Come home, Bogey. If he's willing to come back, man, then yeah, you do it without blinking an eye, right? You bring back Bogut. Now, if he chooses the Rockets or for whatever reason this isn't true and he can't join us, there is another name out there, and he's another former Warrior, Matt Barnes. Now, I know a lot of you are like, man, this dude is 36 years old. He been out tricking in LA, sucker punching Derek Fisher, getting caught up with all sort of thotties and all that. But if you've watched some Kings games, man, he's still effective. He's still effective. And just like I called PJ Tucker a broke-ass Draymond Green, Matt Barnes really is along those same lines, man. He brings a lot of those intangibles, plays the 3-4, tough, greedy defender. He's kind of always in the right spot at the right time on the court. On the court, right? You know, he's not in the right spot at the right time in the club, but on the court, that's another story. So I'm not opposed to bringing Matt Barnes back, man, and I think I'd prefer him over retaining Briante Weber. And I say this just like I talked about Houston getting an insurance policy on Eric Gordon. Let's get an insurance policy on Draymond Green, okay? You know, how nice would it have been to roll out Matt Barnes in that Game 5 in the finals? No, I'm not saying he can play 35 minutes and, you know, give us 20 and 10. I'm not insane. I'm just saying there's going to be times where Draymond's in foul trouble, or God forbid, he reaches his technical limit, that we can fill him in for spot minutes and buy ourselves time because they share a similar skill set. They both shoot the 3 ball well enough to space the floor. They both guard multiple positions, and they're both high energy, tough, gritty guys. So, hey, Andrew Bogut, of course. Matt Barnes, I'm down. What about y'all? I know a lot of Warrior fans are kind of, you know, they look at the outside the court stuff and it's not worth the risk. And I hear what you're saying, but you know, Barnes has kind of been a mercenary the last 4 or 5 years in the league. He's a merc, man. He's been kind of low key ring chasing from team to team. So I think he would fall in line, seeing that this may be one of his last opportunities to win a championship. But again, this is opinion. I don't know the man personally. I mean, we could sign him and then he could be, you know, caught in a club with Draymond, 2 strippers, and an 8 ball. You know what I mean? I don't know. This is all subjective again, but these are the thoughts of your man Alchemy. So let me know what y'all think. That's it for now. I'm out, y'all.